Please welcome Padma Lakshmi.
Exciting to be here. It's
Excited to have you here.
So big in
Isn't
real
it,
life.
though?
Yeah.
It's lovely. I'll tell you what I'm excited about. The new
Tell
season
me.
of Top Chef is in
Thank
my
you.
hometown of Charleston, South Carolina.
I heard this.
Yeah.
I
So
heard you
what do
were
you
a
think? Had you been there before?
I had never been there before.
What do you think of my hometown?
What am I going to say? I don't like it, but but actually, I loved your hometown. I spent over 6 weeks there, and it was just a pleasure to be there. I consider it an honor that I was able to go there because, I've lived in New York and Los Angeles, but I've never really traveled to other parts of the country, and that's one of the beautiful things about being on Top Chef is that.
Well, there's no other part of the country like Charleston, South Carolina. It's like you're in a different country.
Yes. And the men are very beautiful, by the way.
Thank
They
you very
are.
much.
They're very beautiful. I don't know what they feed you down there, but it's working.
A lot of shrimp.
Yes,
Now,
I guess so.
You've also got a new book called The Encyclopedia of Spices and Herbs.
Yes.
Okay. Blow my mind about a spice.
Okay.
What is the spice that none of us are using that we should be?
Okay. I would say there are many. One that comes to mind is green mango powder.
Excuse me?
Green mango powder. It is this magic juju that will make everything more delicious. It is literally green mango that's been dried in the sun and powdered to a texture that's like talcum powder, but it looks like a beige sawdust color.
And I snort that? What do I do with the green mango?
I mean, I suppose you can,
What do I
but
do
don't
with the green
recommend
mango
it.
powder?
You
What is
put
it?
it in everything. It is the ingredient that no one will be able to pick out that will be the MSG of your dish. So, like, I put
Is it sweet? Is it savory?
It's sour because it's mango, right? So it gives you a tartness without actually adding moisture.
You're assuming my knowledge of mango beyond what I actually
Beyond
have. And I
the
apologize for
supermarket.
my knowledge of mango. It's not what it should be. I acknowledge that part.
Well, for instance, I put a pinch of it in my crust when I'm dredging my fried chicken, in the flour with cayenne. Yes, I do.
I'm going to try
Yes,
it.
I
Now,
do.
where can I get green mango powder?
You can get it at most Indian ethnic markets. You can get it at Calistian's, who supplied all the spices. It's a beautiful spice store that's
Now-
been around for ages here in New York.
Is there an essential American spice? Is there a spice like, yeah, that's America?
Filet powder, which is what it's sassafras. It's what people use in gumbo down south, and it's a beautiful ingredient.
Have you had any filet powder in your gumbo, John?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Well, then that means my lack of filet powder means I'm not as American as I should be. How did you
Exactly.
learn all this about spices and herbs? Because this is a 350-page book all about spices and herbs. How much research did you put in?
I did a lot. I had also a great editor and researcher in Judith Sutton, who is also credited on the cover of the book, who helped me. But I love spices, and when I was traveling the world as a model, I learned about all these spices. So any town I went, I would go to the local food markets and learn about them. I'm from India, and I grew up in the States, but spices are everything to me that's so basic to life. Like, I remember being 4 years old and playing with spices, and so now I've just happened to make a living out of it.
How did your mother feel about you playing with spices when you were 4
They
years old?
didn't like it very much.
They didn't like it very
no,
much?
I used to climb the shelves like a monkey and try to get at the chilies and stuff, and they didn't want a 4-year-old handling that stuff, but now they're okay with it.
Well, you have yet another book. It's called Love, Loss, and What We Ate.
That's right, yeah.
And this is a memoir of your life.
This is a memoir of some of my life. It came out earlier
best
this
parts, the
year.
most exciting parts of your life.
Actually, there's some juicy stuff I didn't put in there because I didn't know where for it to go in the narrative, but it's pretty juicy, yeah.
What's the
guess you'll have to
juiciest
wait.
part? What's the juiciest part?
You'll have to wait for the sequel. I mean, there's so much in here.
What about in here?
In here, there's lots of stuff in there. I don't want to ruin it for people, but there is a lot of stuff.
Are there pictures?
There are no pictures. There are no pictures. There are no pictures. And Stephen, the words go to the end of the page. Like there was
The words go all the way. They do.
Yes,
Wow, you
yeah,
really wrote the hell out of
I
this
know.
thing.
Unlike my cookbooks, which are much easier. I mean, it's funny because it took me 5 years to write that book. And when I got the contract from my publisher, it was supposed to be a book about healthy eating, using my own life, my personal life, as an example to illustrate some philosophies I had about food.
Yeah.
But in the writing of it, I just kept going deeper and deeper into the writing. And at one point, I said, I don't know where the hell I'm going. And my publisher, Dan, said, just keep writing. You're an interesting woman. You'll do an interesting book. And I said, but I'm losing sight of the food stuff. He said, no one cares about that anyway.
No, no one
Okay.
cares about food. It's spices is where it's at.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Padma, thank you so much for being
Nice
here. It
to
was
be
lovely to see you again. The Encyclopedia of Spices and Herbs and Love Lost and What We Ate are available now. Padma Lakshmi, everybody. We'll be right back.